So we are picking up. We are on Yud Beis Amud Beis. We are at the second last line, right before it starts to get wide on Yud Beis Amud Beis. We are at the second last line, the second line from where it starts to get wide. So we're in the middle of the story right now that Achashverosh, that all the people were sitting around there talking about we're the best looking people, which country they come from, and Parah said one thing and Madai said another, and Achashverosh says, you got to see my wife, what she looks like. And they said, okay, fine, we want to see her. And they said, okay, and they said, but we want to see her naked. So, which again, this is a Gemara talking, okay? So they said, okay. So we called. So that's what we're picking up now in the story right now. So the Megillah says that Vashti refused to come to see Achashverosh. So the Gemara asks, Michti, Pritza Have. She was a disgusting person. She was a very lewd person. So what's the Amar Mar Shneim Ledvar in this Kavnu that we said it before at the bottom of the Amud? We said that both Achashverosh and Vashti both intended that the men and the women were both going to sin. Were going to be immoral sexually. So what was the problem? My time of the So what problem did she have coming to coming for Achashverosh? So Amar Rav Yossi Bar Chanina Malamet Shepratza Bas Saras, that she broke out in leprosy. She was ready to come, and then her body she broke out in leprosy. So because it's one thing if she was very beautiful, so she says, fine, I don't have any problem exhibiting myself in front of people when she looked very good. But she broke out in leprosy and she didn't look good, so therefore she was embarrassed to come. Masisa Tana, and another Bryce taught a different reason. Ba Gavriel V'asala Zanav, that Gavriel came and put a tail on her. Or the Mefarshim say it may not mean the tail, it may mean just like parts of her body became swollen that are not supposed to be swollen. So she did not look normal. So that's what it means. That's why she didn't want to come. The pasuk continues, and the king got very angry. It says the king got very angry at what happened. So Amai Dalka Bekulahai. So why was he so angry? It says like twice that he got angry. So why was Achashverosh so angry that Vashti refused to come to see him? So Amar Rava Shalchalei, because Rava says that Vashti sent a message back to Achashverosh. But I remember Achashverosh sent a messenger, says to Vashti, come before me naked and in front of all the people so I can show how beautiful they are. She refuses to come. So this is the message that Vashti sent to Achashverosh. She goes, Bar Haroi de Abba, the stable boy of my father. Her father again was Balshazar. So he says, you are the stable boy of my father. Abba l'kabel alfa chamra shasi v'lo ravi. My father was able to drink the equivalent of what 1,000 men could drink, and he did not get drunk. Vahu gavra ishtami b'chamrei. And you get like you drink a little bit of wine, and right away you start making these stupid, foolish requests that you're asking your wife, the queen, to come before everyone naked. So miyad chamasa barabo, right away he got very angry. And the Farshim say that she didn't mean that literally he was the stable boy of her father, because he was the son of Daryavesh. So he had like again, according to some Mefarshim, he had royal lineage in him. But she was saying you're like the equivalent of the stable boy of my father, because you don't know that what you're doing. We're about. Okay, fine. So next pasuk says, so then the king said to the wise people that were around him, he wanted to know what should he be doing with what did she do with Vashti? So who were the Chacham that he was referring to? Rabbanon. He was referring to the Chacham, the Rabbanon of the Jews. Yodei Itim, what does that mean? Sheyodim la'aber shanim l'kboa chadashim, that they knew how to look at the stars, they knew when to be mekadosh the chodesh, that they would declare a new moon, and they knew when they would have to do a Ibr Yom, when they would have to declare an extra month in order to make the year turn out properly. So Amalahu Dayanuli. So Achashverosh said to the Chachamim, says, I want you to judge Vashti what the punishment was to be. So Amar Hechinavich, they said to themselves, how are we going to deal with this? Name a Lekatala, if we're going to say that we should kill her, Lamachar Pastikle Chamre Vaila Minan. So the next day he's going to wake up and he's going to be sober and he's going to say, oh my God, what did I do to Vashti? Why did you guys tell me to kill Vashti? And he's going to be furious with us. Name a Leishafka, if we're going to say that you should just let it go and not bother her at all. Then you can't do that because you're being mezalzel, like you're demeaning the crowd. Again, Achashverosh could say, "Why did you tell me not to do anything?" Now you're like taking a knock at the royalty. So Amrlo, so they said to him, "Miyom shachar beis hamikdash v'galinu me'artzenu nitnut eitzenu mimenu ve'ein now yodem l'dinei nefashos." Since the days that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, we've lost the ability to be able to think clearly. We're not able to judge capital cases because the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. So we're not in our homeland anymore, and therefore we're not able to give you the proper advice how to handle this. So what should you do instead? Zilagabi Ammon and Moab, the Yasvi B'duchtayu. So you go to Ammon and Moab, who are right now living amongst you, and they have their das. They're not unsettled. Kechamra the Yasv al Daya, because it's like wine that's sitting on the sediment. That meaning, as long as you don't stir it up, everything is good. So he's saying, we the Jews, we've been stirred up, so we're not able to think clearly and tell you what to do. But they're sitting just like a fine wine when it's not stirred, when it's not disturbed, that it's able to be, it's in its pristine condition. So they're also going to be the way that they should be, and you should let it go. So the time of Armalei, and what's the reason that, and what he said, what the Rabbanan said, Chacham said to Achashverosh, that was a valid reason. Shanan Moav Minurav V'Shoketu Hashemarav, that Moav was sitting there from the time that he was young, and then he was sitting on the sediment. V'lo Hurak Mibli El Kelly Ubagalo Lohalach Al Kain Amatamo Bav Reach No Marmar. Therefore, he has a taste that stays with him, and he has a fine scent that's with him also, because they haven't been disturbed. So therefore, that's the way that they got out of having to give advice what to do with Vashti. So what happened? Miyad v'hakar ve'lav karshana sheisar ad masa tarshish. Right away, Achashverosh turned to his advisors, and now the Gemara is going to explain what these names were, that they all were connected to the Bnei Yisrael. Amar Rab Levi kal pasuk zeh al shum karbanos namar, that every one of the advisors that they had the names, it's really said for something for the Bnei Yisrael. Karshana, what does that mean? Amar malchei ashar zifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribbono shel Olam. Do they bring you at the beginning of the year? Do they bring you these young lambs, which is it's taking the word karshana and it's supposed to be karim b'nei shana. It's like a play on words that they were doing. Sheisar was the next name. Did they bring 2 doves before you, like the Bnei Yisrael had when they would bring the karbanos? Admasa, which was the next one. Did the Goyim ever build for you a mizbach adama like the Jews did? Tarshish klum sheyimshu lefanecha b'vigdei kahuna d'chsibuhu Tarshish v'sham yashvei. Did they ever serve you in the kelim of the kahuna like the Bnei Yisrael did? It says in the pasuk that it was Tarshish, Sham, and Yashvei. Meres, which was the next name, Klum Ersel B'Dam L'Fanecha. Did the Goyim ever stir the blood? Because when the Bnei Yisrael, when the Jews would bring a carbon, they would have to stir the blood to make sure that it didn't congeal. So he says, did they ever do that? Amarsana, Klum Ersel Menachos L'Fanecha. Did they ever bring Menachos before you? And the last one, Memuchan, Klum Hechinu Shulchan L'Fanecha. Did they ever prepare the Shulchan, that they would bring the Shtei Alachem, that they would put on the Shulchan? The Goyim didn't do any of this. So really the name of the advisors is really a play on words for everything that the Jews did in the Beis HaMikdash. So what happened? Vayomer Memuchan, so Memuchan said, Tama Memuchan zen Haman, that Memuchan is Haman. Lama Nirkash Memuchan, why was he called Memuchan? Shemuchan leParanius, because he was set up, he was Memuchan, he was prepared for punishment, that eventually he was going to be punished for what he was going to be doing. Amar Rav Kahana, Mikan Shehedyo, Kofetz Barosh. We see from here that a Hedyo, a common person, that he jumps to the front to do something that he shouldn't be doing. And meaning because he shouldn't have jumped out to give advice, because now later on, Achashverosh is going to blame him for the advice that he gave for Vashti. And I was listening to this, they said that if you go to these, a lot of times when you see that a bunch of Rosh Yeshivas are sitting together, or Rabbanim are sitting together, and someone asks a question, each one always defers to the other one. They don't want to be the first one to answer, because of this pasuk that says that a foolish person is the one that jumps to do it. Even though the Rosh Yeshivas and Rabbanim are there, because people want to hear what they have to say, but they've learned from this that you don't jump in to give an answer. And I think it was Rabbi Aryeh Leibowitz said that he was at a conference not that long ago, and there were 2 Rosh Yeshivas that were sitting there. He says, there was a lot of silence in the room, because they would ask a question, and each one didn't want to be the first one to give the answer. Okay, anyway, so the next pasuk says in the Megillah, Lias kol ish sarah b'veiso, it said in the Megillah that each person is supposed to be the head of his house. He's supposed to be the ruler in his house. So Amar Rava, if it wouldn't have been for these first letters that said that each man is supposed to be the ruler in his house, then no one would have been left from the, again, it's a euphemism, no one would have been left from the Jews. Why? Because when the second letter came that said that you should go kill all the Jews, they wouldn't have waited until the day that they're supposed to kill the Jews. They would have done it right away. But they got this letter, this first letter that said that the man's the ruler of the house, and they said, Amri man hai desharidlan lios kalish bebeso. Who's sending a letter that says that every man is supposed to be the ruler in the house? Pshita filu karcha bebese. That even the lowest worker is the king of he's the king of his castle. So again, I hope that Rebecca's not listening to this recording, because but like every man, that they know that every man is supposed to be the ruler in his house. So that when they got that first letter, they said these guys don't know what they're talking about. So when the second letter came, instead of jumping on it and right away killing the Bnei Yisrael, they saw the letter. They said, okay, there's a letter that comes out. They're going to wait to see that until the day was coming closer, and then the third letter came out. So the Megillah continues, V'yafkin HaMelech B'kidim, that the king should appoint officers, because again, he was looking for a wife now that he could, to replace Vashti. So Amrav, Amay D'chsiv, Kal Arum, Yaseh B'das, Uchsil Yifrosh Yivalis. It says that every smart man acts with das, he acts with knowledge, but every foolish man, he's very silly, he doesn't think properly. So what is that referring to? So he said, Kal Arum Yaseh B'das, every smart man acts with knowledge. Zed David. That what happened? Because again, when David HaMelech, when he got older, he was very, very cold, because he had when he was running away from Shaul, he had cut. He was in a cave. Shaul, he was in a cave, and he came in there, and he could have killed Shaul, and he wanted to let Shaul know that he was letting him live. So he cut a corner of his cloth to let him know, I was here, and I could have done something, but I didn't do it. So because they say because he treated the clothes with embarrassment by cutting them and ruining them for no reason. I don't want to say no reason, but he ruined them. So later on, he was punished that he was not able to generate warmth in his body. So they wanted to find him a young wife that was going to be able to warm him. So it says that we should find for my master a nara besula. So so every person who had a daughter brought them to David HaMelech, because they knew that he was looking for one person. So therefore, they all wanted that her daughter was going to be that one person that was going to marry David. Why? That everyone who had a daughter would try to hide him from her, because he was looking for many people. So and the way that they say what he was doing is he wanted to sleep with each woman that was coming for him. David HaMelech was looking for one, so they knew because he was looking for one, he's not going to sit here and say, "Bring me 1,000 women," and he's going to sample each of them. Achashverosh was doing that. He was being bold. Each woman that was coming for him. So for David HaMelech, everyone brought him their daughters because they were hoping that he would pick it. It was going to be something. It was going to be a proper way for her to be married to him. But for Achashverosh, because he was like animalistic, he just wanted to be able to sleep with all the women that were there, and then he was going to pick one. The Mishnah continues. The Megillah continues. Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Abira and Ushma Mordechai ben Shimi ben Kish Ishmini. So the Gemara asks, "My Kamar, what are we going here by telling what his lineage was? If we want to say where he came from, what his lineage was, so once you started going back already a few generations, why don't you keep going all the way back up to say that he came from Binyamin? So why was it that it picked out just these three names that it mentioned where he was coming from? So the Gemara says, Tana Kulan al Shema Nikru, each one was where he said the name because there was a name had meaning for where he was coming from. It says Ben Yair, what does that mean? Ben Sheher Einayim Shel Yisrael B'Tfilos, that he was the son of Yair who lit up the eyes of the Jews through his tfilos when he was davening for them, because it says later on La Yehuda Ma'isa Ayra V'Simcha that their eyes lit up. So through his tfilos he was able to light them up. Ben Shimi, what does that mean? Ben Sheshama Kel Tfilaso, that he was the son of Shimi, that it was the son who Hashem listened, Shimi, that Hashem listened to what his tfilos were, because he ended up saving that Hashem saved the Bnei Israel. And Ben Kish, what does that mean? Shehikish al Shayrich Rachamim B'Niftukulo, that he was banging, he was knocking on the gates in order that the Rachamim should be given to the Bnei Israel, and they should be saved from Haman and from Achashverosh. So the Gemara continues. So what does it mean? Karla Yehudi, Amam Yehuda Kazi. It says that it was Ish Yehudi, which seems to imply that he came from the Shevet Yehuda. And then it says Karla Yemini, Amam Ibn Yamin Kazi. It sounds like he came from Shevet Ibn Yamin. So where did he come from? Amrav Nachman Mordechai Mukhtar ben Musohaya. That Mordechai was given many different names from different Shvatim. Why? And they were going to fight over him to say who. Well, the Gemara was going to say they were fighting over him to say was he from Yehuda, or was he from Binyamin? Amar Rabba Bar Chanam, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Aviv and Binyamin b'imam ben Yehuda. That his father was from Binyamin, his mother was from Yehuda. Rabbanan Amri Mishpachos Mizgaros Zubazu, that the families, the Shvatim, were fighting with one another. Mishpachas Yehuda Omeres Anagaram de Misyal Mordechai. That were the reason why Mordechai was born. Why? Delo Katle David Shimi ben Gera, because David, who was from Yehuda, didn't kill Shimi ben Gera, who was the ancestor of Mordechai. So therefore, by not killing him, right, he allowed him to be here. He was able to live. So therefore, he's from Yehuda. Mishpachas Binyamin Amri Minai Kasi, and Binyamin said no, that he came from Binyamin because that's really where he came from. And then Rava Amar Knesset Yisrael Amar Le'idach Gisu, that they went the other way. They weren't trying to take credit for Mordechai. They were blaming Mordechai. Remember, we kind of said this, that everyone looks after the fact and says that Mordechai was so great and everything was so great. A lot of the Jews blamed Mordechai for what was going on during the story of Achashverosh and Haman. So they were blaming it. Ru'uma asuli Yehudi Uma Shilim Limini. Take a look and see what this person from Yehuda did and what this person from Shevet Binyamin did. Ma asuli Yehudi. What does that mean? Turning to Gimel Amud Aleph. That David didn't kill Shimi, and because he didn't kill him, Mordechai ended up coming about, and then he agitated Haman, and that's now we have this whole problem going on. So again, they were saying Lignai, that they were blaming that he was from there. What did they say? Because, and look what Binyamin did, because Shaul, who was from Binyamin, didn't kill Agag, who ended up having Amalek, and then Haman ended up descending from him. So each one was trying to take the blame for the other one, to say, no, he's from you, not from us. So that they didn't like it. And Rabbi Yochanan Amar, a different shot, and with this we're going to stop. Amar la'olam Binyamin Kasi, really that Mordechai came from Binyamin. So if so, Amai Kari le Yehudi. So why was he called Yehudi? Why did he say that it was from Shevet Yehuda? So it says Al Shum Shekafar B'Avodah Zarah, because he didn't bow down to the Avodah Zarah. Remember, Haman made himself into Avodah Zarah, and he insisted that everyone bow down to him. And Mordechai refused to do so. And we say, Shekala Kofar B'Avodah Zarah, Nikra Yehudi. That anyone that refuses to bow down to Avodah Zarah is called a Yehudi. K'dichsiv, Isan, Gevurin, Yehudayin, that it says by Hanani, Mishael, Azariah, that they were from Yehuda. That really they were not from Yehuda. Well, there's two pshatim. One is that they were not from Yehuda, but because they refused to bow down, they called them Yehuda. So therefore, the same thing by Mordechai, even though he's from Binyamin, but they called him a Yehudi because he refused to bow down. And according to another pshat, they were from Shevet Yehuda. But the fact that the pasuk called them Yehudim here also, it's not adding anything. We already knew where they were from, so it must be to show you that if someone doesn't bow down to Avodah Zarah, he is considered to be a Yehudi. Okay, we'll stop here and pick up again on Monday night. Have a great Shabbos.